Welcome to Projects for All. My name is Mike, and today we got a brand new brand to check out on the channel, Skilsaw SPT99T-01 WormDrive table saw. This saw was sent down here by Skilsaw for me to review for you guys. However, we have the scissor stand and the Dado and zero clearance plates that I bought so you guys could see everything that's available for this saw. This one came in this makeshift Amazon packaging. This is an 8.25 blade table saw, cut for 180 days. If you're not satisfied, we will give you your money back. I like the sound of that. 1 year limited warranty. Fresh in the box. Nicely packed. Metal with the adjustments on the plate. Blade guard as always. Big old fat push stick. Standard looking kickback paw with a red button. It's my favorite thing about these little table saws. There's no assembly. Looks nice, man. A lot of metal in here. I see metal gears. Let's get this thing out of the box and have a look. It would appear that's all the assembly we have to do this time. The fence was tucked right up under the side here. There you go. All right, let's run around this thing like we always do. You got your on-off switch, obviously, and you got the paddle, so you can bump this thing. If you get into trouble, you can hit it with your leg, which is always nice. It has a lock system. You can put a padlock in here. So if you have an orange cat at home, or you're gonna put this in a school, you can lock this thing down. So you got blade down and blade up with no locking system, but it seems secure when I stop it. You have your tilt mechanism with your lever on the bottom here. You flip that up and it allows you to tilt your saw. It's nice printed on scale right here, and this big fat red pointer. I really like it. I'm gonna tell you right now, I can see this easily, no problem at all. So I don't see a way to override the stops to get you -1 degree or 47 degrees as it shows on this scale right here. So when we do the adjustments, we'll see. Maybe we can get it so it doesn't stop at 45. It'll stop at 47. We'll check that out later. You have your lock for your rack and pinion fence system right in the front. Easy to get to. Nice red color. Nice and smooth rack and pinion. And a nice big knob for adjusting. Got a push stick right in the front. Fits in that plastic bracket. Pretty standard stuff as far as a push stick goes. Kind of reminds me of a Roman sword look, but you know, it's a push stick. It's got this nice beveled bracket, and it's easy to get it right in there. It's not the most secure one I felt, but it clicks in. There's a little tab inside there that holds it down. Nothing really on this side except a nice rubberized grab handle for holding this metal frame. On the back side here, we got a lot of stuff going on. We have the other side of our rack and pinion fence with this beautiful metal gear. We got a place to store our miter gauge. Fits in a bracket. We'll have a look at this in a few minutes. Fits on the other side there and just snaps down on this bracket. We got a dust port, about 62 millimeters or just under 2.5 inches. It is plastic mounted to metal. There's a wing nut right on the back here. Unscrewing that allows you to slide it back. It's in a bracket. And there's your dust port right on the back. Replaceable if you break it, which is cool, and mounted in half plastic for this side and metal for this side. This is a great idea. So if you drop the arbor nut down in here, you don't have to turn the saw upside down to fish it out of there, and it just fits right back in that bracket. It slides down and then screws down secure. Up underneath here, there's a thumb screw for your wrench, two-sided wrench, and a place to store an Allen key. Yeah, come out of there. And you get your Allen key. Fits right in this little bracket right here. There is nowhere on this to keep extra blades, but it is a compact table saw. On this side, you got your blade guard bracket. This fits on here exactly the same way it would if it was on your blade or on your riving knife. It's got these brackets to hold down the sides of the plastic so they're not flopping around. Up under the table is your kickback paw, and it just fits in a bracket, just like it would if it was on the riving knife. A button, this is pretty easy to take on and off. On the left side, we have a cord keeper. Here's our WormDrive motor, and there is the plug for filling our WormDrive oil. If you have no experience with WormDrive saws, you gotta keep oil in them and change the oil, just like in your car. That brings us to our tabletop. 22 7/8 wide, 18 7/8 front to back. Not a big table saw, but compact. We got our throat plate. Comes off. Open in the back. With your safety equipment attached, you can slide it on and off. Metal. Beautiful. Flathead screws for the adjustment, which is, I think, a first for what we've seen. The retention system is a piece of spring steel on the front there. Not my favorite retention system for a portable saw that I've seen. Fits on there nice. It's flat right out of the box, but man, you got to push it down like crazy, and it doesn't even hold it very tight. You can just pull it right back up. It does sit tight enough to where I don't think it's going to fall off if you're jiggling this thing around. But you tell me, you own this saw? Does this thing fall off? This tabletop feels solid. It has a nice smooth powder coat on it. I don't see any imperfections in it. It's a nice piece. It has a very nice, easy to read scale with this big fat red pointer. Max rip with your fence extended completely is 25 3/8. Talk about our rail real quick and then we'll get to our fence. But here is how you remove your fence. You got latches front and rear, and it simply lifts off. This little bracket here that fits on these screws, this is plastic, but there is an actual metal insert screwed into this, making it more rigid and precise and less prone to wear under heavy use, which is pretty cool. It has these metal retention brackets and some beefy looking plastic. You can see the glass fiber in the plastic. This is meant to be used. It is spring loaded. It fits in 3 positions. So you have this position for cutting on the left side of your blade. This position here for getting your fence up against your blade to 0. And then this one here to get you your full rip, 25 3/8. These two are 4 inches apart. So if you have your fence on this one here and you pull your fence all the way in, you're going to be 4 inches from your blade. So the fence fits on these bolts right here, and it is a tighter fitting fence than I think any of the ones I've done so far. I mean, it really, you have to push it in there. You can kind of see by me doing it, these latches are spot on tight. This thing is just tight. It feels like quality. That's the best way I can describe it to you. This really does feel like a cut above. It has this, I would call it a bracket right here, but it doesn't come to the end. So this is not for attaching things. I would assume that this is here for rigidity. A matching one on the back side. But I assume, because a lot of the ones, the DeWalt and the Skil, you can squeeze and feel the little bit of give in there. This is rock solid. So you have an auxiliary fence here. Fits in 2 positions. Flips around. You can pull it so you have a support for your material when your fence is stretched way out. And then you can put it in this higher position here. It sits flush on your table, giving you a little more space for a push stick, or if you're going to cut really thin material, it gives you a small fence for doing just that. Flips over and locks in on top. All right, as usual, I'm using a goofy amount of light because I hope you guys can see this. It is jet black everywhere in here. You have your arbor lock on this side. It is a lever that pulls up, spin your blade, and that's how you lock your arbor. Got our included wrench, arbor nut, keyed washer. Comes with a 24 tooth Skilsaw blade, 8 1/4, 5/8 arbor. At least this one doesn't say 24 tooth fine finish. Riving knife. The lever is right here. You reach down in and pull it up. Riving knife is 3 positions. It is captive, meaning you can't pull it out of there. It has these holes for the detents. When it's unlocked, it's a little looser than I'm used to feeling, but it works perfectly fine. And then you push that down to relock and rock solid. So a dado set can fit on this little table saw, which is, to me, is super cool. 8-inch dado set. 1/2 inch is all you get, but We're talking about a small table saw here. So personally, I feel happy to be able to use a Dado set at all. We're not going to use the included nut and washer. We'll put those to the side. Our Dado throat plate came with this washer, integrated and thinner, because our arbor really isn't that long. I dropped my riving knife down to the lowest position. My Dado throat plate that I purchased has the same spring steel, and there you go. One Dado set installed in a very small table saw. Cool. Before we put our blade back on, here is the zero clearance plate. It is plastic, of course, because you have to cut through it. And it has the same flathead screws that all three plates have to adjust the height. However, there's no retention system on the front of this thing. And you'll see these holes here that correspond with this. Something I wasn't expecting. Just fits down in there, but it includes 4 Phillips head screws to screw this down to the table. So you can cut through it and not have to worry about holding it down when you do that. But even cooler, if this is what you're going to use all the time and you're not going to be beveling your saw much, then you can leave this on here and it is just literally screwed down. Badass. I like this design. See if I can do one of these without dropping the nut down in there. I think it's been every single video I've made so far. And I just do not have the coordination with my left hand. Oh, look at that. We got away scot-free this time. Lift our riving knife back up. So far, I see decent quality and little innovations and things I like all over this saw. Let's check the calibrations and see how straight it is. And then we'll throw the stand on it and pull that out of the box. And we'll see if it cuts wood. So is the blade parallel to the miter slide? Arguably the most important measurement you can do. I bought this slick device so I could show you guys better and demonstrate better that these things are straight or they're not. And I've been getting fairly inconsistent results with this. I've been using it on the Delta with a new blade. I used it on this one with a new blade, and I think the problem lies in the blade itself. You guys tell me, but I don't feel the blades are straight enough to really be able to test that accurately. By my old standard, the old Craig stainless steel ruler, this blade is straight to the miter slot and does not need an adjustment. By this, it's off by 4 or 5 thousandths. I feel like more research needs to go into this before I really use it. I know there's plates available, calibrated straight plates that you can install to use this. And I think we're gonna order one of those. So I'm gonna use the old standard for this video. This blade is perfectly parallel to this miter slot. And by the next video, when we get to this stuff, we should have a better solution. So next up is the fence parallel with the miter slot. To adjust this, you take your included Allen key, and these are basically just bolts, and you can loosen them and move them around. There's 3 on each side of the table, so keep in mind that you have to calibrate the fence at each position for it to be calibrated. So I have it set to 0, and if I send it down to the other end, it's off by about 15 thousandths, which I can actually see with my eye. This fence is not parallel. It's off by about 13 thousandths. The 0 is right there. Let's take this, loosen this, and see if we can't tweak it. Now it is actually spot on just from eyeballing it. So we're 0, and we're 0 on this side too. Beautiful. So let's check this position, because I loosened this up to show you that it moves, and I know it's off by a mile. I pulled it over and I eyeballed it, and I got it as straight as I can, and we're within about 2 thousandths on that side. Maybe less. I'm gonna call it good. I'm gonna check, but I'm not gonna bother to show you guys. It's the same thing, and I almost never cut on the left side. I don't even know why I bother calibrating this. I'm on the fence whether or not I recommend you guys buy this thing. This one was $100, and they have a fancier one with a long arm. That's $200, and I calibrate a lot of table saws, and we're gonna be checking these things constantly, so it makes sense for me to spend $100 on this. If you were a super fine woodworker, and that was a big concern, those thousandths of an inch, it's probably not a bad idea. Who knows? You guys tell me. Is this something everyone should own? $100. So is the fence perpendicular to the table? Mine is absolutely perfect in every position. Spot on, like laser straight. There is no adjustment to change this if yours is off. Just like the Skil table saw or the DeWalt, you would have to put maybe some painter's tape or a shim underneath between the fence and the rail. This little bracket here, I loosened these screws to see if that moved. If possibly that was an adjustment, and it isn't. It's just a bracket to make it stronger, this metal piece inside here. All right, so let's pull our fence over so it just kisses the carbide tips of our blade. And I don't think I could get it more perfect than that. So what if your blade isn't parallel to the miter slot? Well, I flipped the saw on its side, and these two bolts right here and a matching pair on the back side are the way to adjust the blade parallel to the miter slot. Your included Allen key will loosen these, and you can just move the whole carriage with the motor underneath here and get it aligned. Here's the one at the back of the saw. So I ran my first cut through and realized that my riving knife was not properly aligned, and I didn't show you that, so nobody's perfect. Let's look here at the adjustment. You have these two clamping screws and two set screws. This set screw has a 10mm that literally they give you no space for. They tell you to loosen it with an open-ended wrench, and yeah, no open-ended wrench that I have is gonna fit in there. So we'll use a socket. Then 1/4 to 1/2 a turn on these. Oh nice, that one was already loose. All right, so this is not an intuitive or easy adjustment, but the best advice I can give you is you loosen the nut on the outside of this with a 10mm socket. Then you take your included wrench and you loosen these end screws. And it says 1/4 to 1/2 a turn. I probably did 1/2 a turn. That makes the entire thing loose and flopping around, and then you're screwed. So what you do, little tiny bits, maybe 1/8, loosen this just so you can move this riving knife a little, and then use a flathead screwdriver to adjust these two screws, which is two different angles. You're just gonna have to move them a little bit and see which way it moves. Then it's pretty intuitive. Then you tighten these down, and then at last you tighten down your nut here. I got mine perfect. I did it without putting the fence against it. I eyeballed it. Not the best design ever. Not a big fan of that, to be honest with you. But it took me about 10 minutes and I got it laser straight. It is what it is. So last but not least, let's check to see if the stops at 90 and at 45 are accurate. We'll use the old Wixie gauge. Zero it out. And we're off by just the tiniest hair. This Phillips head screw is actually adjusting a little cam behind here that this bumps into. So you turn this screw to adjust that cam. I'll show it to you on the back side. I'm gonna turn this 1/4 turn to the left, and we'll see if it makes a difference. Nope. So I'll loosen it up. I'm gonna go 1/2 a turn to the right on that screw. Spot on perfect. 45 adjustment is the same way. It's this screw on the end here. This is the carriage that swings. This is the little cam on the Phillips head screw. Beautiful design. Super simple and easy to adjust with just a Phillips head screwdriver. Turning this cam here all the way to its flat side allows you to bevel your saw past the 0. The 45 side works exactly the same. Metal parts on this abound. I mean, there's plastic, but mostly metal. Smooth as butter. It's a well-made table saw. Miter saw stand. I figure what fun is it if we don't get the stand? I ordered this online and I think it cost me all 70 bucks. I think all we have to do here, yeah, we just gotta put the feet on. Just the feet. Height adjustable on this one. That's cool. The holes are different distances apart, so you can't really screw that up. The latches flip around and lock it's folded, so it can't unfold on you. And it's just that easy to deploy. Not bad. Not too bad. What's working height on the stand? Almost exactly 35 inches. This is a decent working height. I can live with this for sure. All right, so we got the Harbor Freight guy, 4 inches to 2.5 adapter, and what used to be my desk, but now it's just an outfeed table, we're gonna use as an outfeed table. Let's turn this thing on. First turn on, I always wondered what would happen if I spent an entire day filming one of these things, and at the end of the day, I go to turn it on and it doesn't work. All right, so about 50 decibels when I'm not talking. Let's turn this thing on and see what happens. About 90 decibels. So we got max height 2 5/8 at 90, or 1 7/8 at 45 degrees. Let's rip it 2x4. Good cut, about what I'd expect from a framing blade. Cut no problem. I mean, if a job site table saw can't rip a 2x4, then we got something else to talk about. How about a weird shaped piece of 1/2-inch plywood? Let's set up our zero clearance plate. We unplugged our saw. We're gonna take our riving knife and put it at its lowest position and lock it down. And then lower our blade all the way down. We'll use the straight edge to make sure we have it flat. We'll take our little screws and we'll secure it to the table. So I definitely over tightened these screws because this was flat a second ago. So I'm gonna back these off a little bit. It is just plastic. Because the screws that secure it are behind the screws that are holding it level, it pulled it down. So, I mean, they basically just have to hold it on there. All right, game on. Let's try a little red oak. So 2 5/8 is supposed to be max height at 90. This is 2 3/4, maybe a hair under. And it might actually break through. Max depth on treated wood. Man, that little saw is powerful as hell. Huh, it's like a piece of paper holding it on still. Just that little sliver there, that's almost made it through. Nice cut. Real nice cut. Full depth, treated wood. Like freaking butter. All right, let's rip the 1x, the 2x, the 3/4 inch plywood, and I'll cross cut this red oak and this poplar. Here's your miter gauge, aluminum bar, little steel disc, typical junky ABS, plastic Delrin base on it to slide a little better, but allows you to attach another fence or something else to it. Nothing to get excited about, but it is actually square at 90 though, to my surprise. the last thing to do is see if it can dado. I adjusted this plate and this plate's warped. This is the one that came in the screwy Amazon packaging that clearly someone returned, and this is clearly why. It's high in this corner because the plate's warped, it's bent. It'll be good enough for a demonstration, but definitely going back to Amazon for at least the second time. We'll go about 3/4 deep in this 1.5-inch piece of pine. So here's all the dust that it produced, but in reality, I forgot to turn the dust collector on when I ripped that, what was left of that 4x4. So dust collection, pretty good. So what do we really think about this little WormDrive table saw? It's awesome. The power's amazing. It cuts everything and zero struggling. It's a little bit quieter than a lot of the job site saws that we reviewed, and I like that. Not cheap for its small size, but I don't get the impression that the accountants got a hold of this thing and destroyed it after it was designed, because there is a ton of metal on this. I like the rigid fence. It's a little bit thicker and it has that channel to make it rigid. It is rigid and it's straight as an arrow. All the adjustments are good. The stops are awesome. The riving knife, not so much. I did it once and I struggled, and I would say if I had to do it again, 5 minutes. The key with doing that is very small adjustments. It tells you half a turn, no. Oh, just a little bit, just a little here and there, each one, until things move and you can put it where you need to. If you loosen it up, all of a sudden it just lets loose and it's flopping around and you got to start over. Dust collection, excellent. This is a really good table saw. The tabletop is very solid. I like the stand, and I like the fact that the stand's not included. You can get just the saw if you want. This is the type of small table saw for a guy with a small van that's careless and going to let it slam around, and I think this thing can take the abuse. That's the impression I get. It's got metal throat plates. I like that. Half an inch dado stack, excellent. Went through hardwood, deep through pine, no problem, like zero problem with that. This is a good little table saw, and I'm gonna enjoy using this thing, and I'm pretty happy it's here. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you like this one, hit subscribe, hit like on this video. It very much helps out the channel. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.